Blue Protocol just got a ton of new announcements, and yes, a bunch of things are officially here. I'll cover all those details as well as the brand new FAQ that was just posted. Additionally, we have some details around how the seasons are going to work, and we'll see how that compares to the CN client. That'll bring us onto the recent CN patch notes and how that ties into global, as well as a whole bunch more. What's up, World Utopia here, back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things Blue Protocol. Okay, so first off here we got the official FAQ, which will lead us onto some additional things here. The first one is, yes, we did get the official launch times and even a preload. That actually started this morning at 7 AM Central Time. So yes, currently, as this video has gone live, you can download and preload Blue Protocol, and that is nearly on every single platform. Steam, the standalone launcher via the website. If you're going to be playing on a mobile device, as of right now, what I can check is it is available on the iOS store. I'll go over the download sizes, how those vary in a second here. However, the one platform that looks like you can't pre-download it is Epic Games. I'm not sure what it is with Epic Games, but they seem to never have pre-downloads available. They are very rare and can vary per game. So unfortunately, if you wanted to play through the Epic Games client, you're not going to be able to pre-download, or at least preload at the moment. What I could potentially recommend there is if you really wanted the Epic Games client version, I would maybe download the standalone client or even the Steam version. More than likely, the standalone client would be best. Then when you start the Epic Games client, you could move all your files over to the corresponding folders. So you would just start your download on Epic Games for maybe a minute or two, so it does kind of archive those folders and have those all ready to set and go. You would then move your folders over from the launcher version into the Epic Games folders. Then you should be able to re-hit play, and it should be able to detect the new download size or the new download of that. At least I would guess that would be the case. It's not 100% there, but that would be the only method that I could think of. Now, as of right now, I am downloading the new launcher version. I had a different launcher version as well as the closed beta version. It does seem like it's going to download 23 gigabytes but then unpack into 26. You're more than likely also going to probably want to delete your closed beta test version. I was wrong on that one. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I do think it was better to be safe there than sorry. From what I could tell though, if you didn't delete the beta version, you actually do have duplicate installs. At least from what I've noticed, unless I selected the wrong folder, but it ended up being 55 gigabytes in my folder size, instead of it being the 26 is what it should be. The full download size, though, just through the standalone launcher is only 23 gigabytes. Again, so I probably would recommend that if you can't just install or it doesn't detect your install, I would go ahead and delete your closed beta files. That way you don't have duplicate installs there. Otherwise, you might have a much larger game size. Now, what about mobile? What is the size there so far? Well, actually, the original download size on the App Store is 3.6 gigabytes. However, usually with mobile games, I knew that wasn't going to be the case. Sometimes, or a lot of times, when you download a game, you have to download even more assets through their launcher. Well, it's the same thing here. Once you launch the game, it will prompt you to download another 4.5 or 4.4 gigabytes, I believe. So in total there, you're looking at around 8 to 8.1 gigabytes. I'm not sure if that's going to vary on different iPhones, if they have an HD resolution pack for the higher end ones. However, I'm on an iPhone 11 Pro Max, so that's what I'm getting right now. Unfortunately, I don't have a newer Android. Might get one eventually just to test these things, but it probably is around the same size as my guess. If anybody wants to be the guinea pig there and has an Android, please let me know in the comments down below, as it does help others with the resources there. Now, as I mentioned, there is an FAQ as well here that does have some different mentions other than the preload time and the server open time. And just to reiterate there, the launch time is the exact same time on October 9th, tomorrow, or depending on when you're watching this video, October 9th at 7 AM Central Time. So the Steam database unlock time was correct there. Again, I do have a timetable here with all the times. That's going to be 5 AM Pacific time and 8 AM Eastern time. Again, there are some other ones there. I'll leave a time converter down below if you need to. Now, I do want to go over a bit of the FAQ here because this covers in-game features, connection issues, a lot of account-related concerns, and a few other questions you might be having pertaining to launch. So the first one here, this has been talked about a little bit in my comment section. It is the languages that are currently available in the game. They do list out here that the game currently supports English and Chinese for text, with also Japanese voiceover. They will have additional language support in the future. So they do mention that you can check on their social media channels when those do come to fruition. This next one here pertains to the login methods. Currently, there's actually quite a lot here for the PC launcher. There's the A+ account, which I'm currently just using. I feel like that's the most seamless. But you can also use an Apple ID, Google Play, or even a CRG account, which from my knowledge here is a Crunchyroll Games account. So you can use your Crunchyroll account if you wanted to. This actually does differ slightly for the Android and iOS platforms. Of course, Android here is going to use Google Play, while iOS is going to use an Apple ID. However, they do have an option for a guest account here, where it seems like you don't need to have a login for those platforms. So kind of cool there, but unfortunately they do mention that if you are using a guest account, that you will need to eventually link it to a login account as soon as possible. Otherwise, there might be potential risks of losing your game data or progress. I assume that's even tied to accidentally deleting the game, etc. So realistically, you should really not use a guest account if you can avoid it. And if you do set up an account, you should be able to link all these things together, so if you want to play on PC or the mobile platform, you should be able to play those seamlessly. They do also have ways here where you can even unlink third-party accounts, where you can unlink an Apple, Google, or even Crunchyroll account from your A+ account. So I would start with A+, that is kind of the main one, then that way you can get rid of the third-party ones at will. And if you're playing via Steam or Epic Games, you can still upgrade to an A+ account. They do mention that you can go to the login screen on the right-hand side at the top, where you can then check your current login method and choose to link your account to an A+ account. Once linked, you're good to go to play on PC or the mobile platform, and your account and progress data will be synchronized across all platforms. Again, why I highly recommend just using the A+ account if you can. Next up here, we have the gameplay feature questions. This one here I actually had asked about in one of my recent videos. Can you delete a character if you mess up? Well, you can. After logging in, you can navigate to the character creation screen, and then select the character you wish to delete, and then click the delete button. That'll be located at the bottom to initiate the deletion process. What if you accidentally delete the character? Well, you can undo a character deletion if you delete it by mistake. That will enter a 7-day cooldown period before permanent removal. So you must undo this before the 7-day period to restore that. They do mention once that 7-day cooldown period expires, that character will be permanently deleted and cannot be recovered. So more than likely it is wiped from their servers. They do mention there is a bit of a daily limit here. You can delete up to 3 characters per day. They still undergo that 7-day cooldown though. A cool thing here, I know a ton of you have been from different regions commenting about that, and 2 things addressed with those. Can you join a guild, and also can you party up and play dungeons together if you and your friends are in different countries or regions? They say here yes to both of those as long as you're all playing the English or global version, which is being published by A+. So the A+ version, not the CN client, yes, you can all play together. The CN client though has its own servers. I'm also assuming the ones that are published in Taiwan as well as in Japan, those are going to be different as well, since those are different publishers and those are on different clients. Next up here, we actually had a community update as I was recording the audio for this video, and they addressed a few other things here. This first one I have recognized with some games. They say it's no secret that many MMOs developed in Asia haven't always been the best to communicate with their Western audiences. Will there be opportunities for Western players to interact more directly with the developers or the A+ team? They do mention here, as an MMO, BPSR will ultimately be defined by its community. As that community does grow and evolve, they want to do our best to ensure that everyone feels heard and has their questions answered. Regardless of the format there, they're excited to spend more time on their Western players, and they'll continue to hold opportunities for direct interaction. What I will say is, I've had direct communications with the community managers, so that's been pretty cool to see there. So they are communicative, I can say that from my own experience. Hopefully we do get some direct contact with the developers. I've actually noticed that a lot of the recent games I've covered from Asia, especially Once Human and a few others, they've actually been really good about communicating with the Western audience. At least they were originally. I do hope a little bit better there for some of those, but I hope they do so, and it does seem like so far. A cool one here is about future content. I know some people have been asking, we're missing some classes from the CN client, or they want new ones. I go on here, without giving too much away, can you tease whether any new characters or areas from the original Blue Protocol might make a return? They say they want it deeply connected to the original protocol. They're huge fans of the original one. They do understand it's a hot topic amongst the community right now, and they're carefully considering all possibilities. Ultimately, though, they do want players who like the original Blue Protocol to feel rewarded. Might be getting some characters that do return and some areas as well. Really cool here, they also talk about future collaborations, especially pertaining to the Western version or the global version. They say that they're already in talks with several major anime IPs. some of you have definitely heard of, and maybe even a few surprises. And a future collaboration is coming up sooner than you think. They're not giving names just yet, but it looks like we are going to be getting some collaborations sooner than later. We do have one future teaser here though, that is for some upcoming raids and dungeons, where they do say here they have an example for an upcoming Ice Dragon raid. Players will need to stay close together to share the warmth and navigate the fire sources to prevent deliberating freeze debuff, or another raid will challenge players to split their forces as part of the team slips into the shadow dimension. So pretty cool there, a few little teasers for those upcoming raids. They also do have one more mention here that I thought was pretty interesting. This is pertaining to the accessibility and UI updates. They do say right now PC and mobile versions have their own unique UI designs that have been carefully optimized for how players interact with those platforms. They do still, however, plan to optimize the UI layout, which will allow adventurers to freely arrange, resize, and personalize their interface, which I think is really cool there. Hope that one comes out sooner than later. Love being able to tune my UI just a little bit. Honestly though, for the PC UI, it actually is pretty decent, especially playing some other games that are ported from mobile to PC. This one actually has a fairly decent UI. Now last up here, I wanted to cover the CN patch notes and the Season 2 stuff just very briefly. There were a ton of things in this patch notes pertaining to Ice Mage, the Shield Knight, and a few other things there. I'm not going to go over those entirely, but I will leave a link to it down below if you do want to check those out. This portion though, I do want to talk about for the season timing for CN versus Global. So currently, if you didn't know, the CN client or Chinese client was supposed to be getting Season 2. However, they actually had Season 1 extended till October 30th, with a Season 2 prologue running during this extension. So those players have been comped with some login rewards, bound gems, etc. However, I believe that is to help get it into alignment later on, at least with the global version. So the global version is not going to start on Season 2. We are going to start at Season 1. We currently have no official Day 1 season sync announced just yet, and we don't know exactly when Season 1 is precisely ending. Of course, they're usually around 3 months. But I do believe the reason for them extending Season 1 for the CN client was to later help with either a staggered release there, or even an alignment that would come later. Potentially though, the planned content might be offset there, with that staggered release in between. If you did make it to the end of this video, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. That does help out the channel a ton. And until the next one, deuces.